The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on and they get.
He missed the complete. That is crazy stuff.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield before. He slides through. He tags Richard Eckler.
Fans of the movie Grand Prix will be familiar with today's circuit. The iconic shots of classic Formula One cars flying around the old Monza banking are hard to forget. But much like the fantasy of movies keeping the competitors safe, today's virtual competition allows us all the thrills without the spills causing anyone more harm than a bruised ego. Who has the guts, the skill, and the speed to come out on top? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 12 of the Racing for Rick World Cup Challenge, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Sean Ambrose. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sean, ever since iRacing released Monza with the combined circuit as an option to drive, it's been incredibly popular with the Lotus 49 group. Tell us a little bit about this wild layout.
Joe chiamato ufficialmente Autodromo Nazionale Monza. La pista si trova nella città Monza, a nord di Milano in Italia. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, this is an English broadcast. Sorry, Joe. Let me get on that. Built in 1922, it's the world's third purpose-built racetrack after Brooklands in Surrey in England and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Joe, this configuration today will be without the first chicane, but we will deal with that second chicane. Yes, we will be heading down at speed down in the Variante della Roggia. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be a fun one today. 6.2 miles, 9.9 kilometers, Joe. 20 laps today around this 13-turn circuit. Let's hop into the GSRC Lotus 49 and take a ride around Monza.
Alright, we're in the GSRC Lotus 49, so let's do a lap around Monza. Coming up to the first half of the oval, aim for the high side because the banking is actually so steep that it will start to steer the car in for you. In fact, you have to countersteer slightly to keep it from sending you to the apron and getting the car all kinds of wonky. On exit, you'll need a little more steering input since your momentum starts to pull the car towards the outside fence. If you've timed your run right, you can slingshot past the car in front of you down the backstretch. But unless it's a last lap situation, I wouldn't advise trying to go too wide into the second half of the oval. Just like before, you've got to hold wide and countersteer. This and the narrow track make it very treacherous to do anything but single file around the oval. Hope you've got a big pair though, because now comes the jump. Let the car drift a little high, then swing it back low and try your best to keep the car straight over the crest. You can see I wasn't quite perfect, and even that tiny bit of sideways momentum makes for a scary landing. If you're in a pack, sideways landings almost always lead to the big one. Once more, the drafting game is going to be played down the traditional front stretch. Here, it's a lot more viable to go too wide into Curva Grande. You can even attempt to outbrake your opponent. Try to get the power down early, and if you've lined it up right, you can countersteer your way out of the corner with your foot down the whole way out. You can hear I had to lift slightly to keep it together. After that, switch sides and brake hard for Della Roggia. You can take quite a bit of curb on the left and get away with it. Then straighten her out and throw out the anchors for the first Lesmo. A late apex is better than what I've got going on here, though if you compromise your exit a little bit, it's okay because it's not often passes are attempted into the second Lesmo. Don't be afraid to be aggressive on the inside curb here and really focus on getting to the gas as soon as you can. This is a pretty long straight we'll be flying down. With the braking into Ascari coming up, it's a very popular passing spot. Expect a lot of aggressive defending into here. Under the bridge, spot your brake marker, then ideally you want to get the rear rotated on entry. Hug tight to the right through the second apex, and then be careful not to clobber the sausage curb on the third one so that you have an easier time applying the power. Use up all the pavement to your right, and then get on the loud pedal again. Parabolica can offer a chance to pass on the last lap, but you'd be foolish to do it any other time because of the draft on the oval. Just like Ascari, try to get the rear of the car to rotate on entry and then ease onto the throttle on exit. I tend to try and short shift to help me find traction. Getting the launch out of here is incredibly critical to lap times, so avoid hesitation. Hopefully, you've kept it all together and have now finished a lap around Monza. So, as you can see, going to be quite fast around here, but doing things slightly differently than normal in this league. Typically in the past, they've run the no chicanes version. You can tell today by watching the racing. They do have Della Rosa in there. And Sean, we were talking a little bit about that before the race. This car is not really made for slower chicanes.
Boy, and you're going to see when they get down into Della Rosa, it's going to be a real challenge. You'll see them start to brake before the bridge, before they actually get under the bridge. It takes a lot to slow that car down. You're coming off a very, very long straight, and then all the speed you've got through Curva Grande, it really makes it tough to slow that thing down. You've got to stop practically down to almost 10 miles an hour just to make it through there.
So drivers will need to be braking very early and tiptoeing through there. Does give them an extra chance for a pass, although I wouldn't think that's really needed too much as you see Bradley Osborne coming around the banking, which brings in something you typically don't talk about a lot in this car, Sean, and that is drafting.
Yeah, and you know what? Going back to talking about the technical sessions, the twisty bits, if you will, you really don't have to press to make a move there in the twisty bits. Why? Well, because you get plenty of opportunities on these long straights here. Draft a big deal, a la Talladega, Daytona Speedway. I mean, really, you can get a chance to really run here, and this car does actually cut a pretty big hole in the wind. You can take advantage of those drivers on these wide open straights.
With it being a bit of a cigar tube, typically you wouldn't be able to get much of a draft on it, but as you said, the high speed's causing a big hole in the air. So let's go through the grid. Jack Ulstead going to be on the pole with Hugh Jacobson starting in second. Billy Bob Wright will be in third with Mick Claridge starting in fourth today. Then in fifth, it'll be Brett Riali, followed by P6 being Casper DeCourt. Michael Langford starting in seventh. In row four, it'll be Gary Anderson on the outside in eighth, Ove Trangarade in ninth. Rounding out the top 10 is Hideki Koivisto.
Okay, Joe, and then we've got the UK&I driver Simon Shaw will start 11th. Andrew Eng starting 12th. Craig Spitzer joining us today. He will start in 13th. Don, tell me something good, baby. He's starting 14th. Per Anders Martinsen will start 15th. I'll work on his name. It's Martin. Yeah, it's Martinson. There we go. And Oscar Helm in 16th. Bradley Osborne will finish out this 17 car field.
Lights are up, and we are going racing for 20 laps around here. As the green flag waves, great start by Huey Jacobson. Horrible start by Jack Ulstead. He gets caught by Billy Bob Wright, who is bottled up. Drivers really want to get themselves sorted out for the banking here, even when they're slow. Now's the time you really want to get single file as Casper DeCourt's caught on the low side under Brett Rial. We're finally getting it sorted out here, Sean.
Getting it sorted out indeed. Now, we do have a couple drivers running a little extra ballast. Mick Claridge and Ove Trengrade. They may be a little slow here initially.
Jacobson held off Jack Ulstead. Apologies, I believe it's Uwe Jacobson. Takes the lead as they come over the jump the first time. This is what's going to be hairy. A few drivers getting a better run than others as we go three wide, barely squeaking through down the inside. That looks to be Mick Claridge on a run, but he's got that extra ballast. He's going to be braking very early up here. Drivers need to be aware as they come into Curva Grande, slowing it up, a few of them too wide. That's Billy Bob Wright battling with Casper DeCourt up at the front. Mick Claridge hounding Uwe Jacobson as they now finally break for Della Rosa.
Craig Spitzer back here was off at Curva Grande, got out into the sand. He's back on track, Joe.
Oscar Helm a little bit off as he lost a place to Michael Langford through Della Rosa, trying to gather the car after he dipped wheels into the grass. He keeps going. I understand there was an incident between Anderson and Angle. We've got that held on to show you a little bit later. Right now, things incredibly tight up at the front. We expect it to stay that way, as you said, Sean. The draft causing something of pack racing out there today.
Yeah, they will probably stay in this for a while. Oh boy, Oscar Helm having trouble back at Ascari. Just hits the runoff. He's okay, back on track now. Back of the field really starting to spread out because guys having trouble getting started here, Joe.
There's a little bit of a peek inside, and actually a pass for the lead as Claridge has managed to get by Jacobsen. That must have been into Parabolica. But as we saw it on screen, apparently, I was looking away to check to see on Helm, which he had just cut the course through Ascari, which is going to get him a slowdown penalty, a little bit more than he wanted being on the first lap. Now as they come back onto the banking here through 1 and 2, a big run for Jack Ulstead, but has nowhere to go with it as he catches him through the corner. Ducks down to the inside. This is always Harry to try and go by on this backstretch. Can we see 3 wide as Billy Bob Wright starts to stick his nose in?
Boy, they're sure thinking about it here, Joe.
Gets out of it, thankfully. It is, you almost have to go single file on these cars through this corner. Ulstead still getting all over the back of Jacobsen. Always a smart thing through this part of the course where if something goes wrong, it is narrow and you can be collected in the flash of an eye.
Langford had trouble out of 4, Joe. Up into that Armco barrier, and he is way off pace now.
We missed that, unfortunately, because Billy Bob Wright swung himself into second with a brave move down the inside of the front stretch. These cars get over 200 miles an hour on this course. Whoa, big slide from Jack Ulstead. Somehow gathers it together and doesn't lose a position to Jacobsen as we ride on board with the court just behind these two. Now let's see if we can get a bit of a view of what happened to Anderson here. We can pull up the replay. Wow, cars tumbling. Looks like Anderson braked a little bit earlier than people expected. And he got collected by Andrew Ang and a couple other cars. You're going to see here just slows up. One car gets him. I didn't see who that was, but it was Ang that sent him tumbling.
And boy, that was a nasty one. That really sent him flying, and Ang, of course, done after that as well. Several early retirements there.
Yeah, we've seen worse pileups in that first corner in this series. Thankfully, it's not as big as those were, which only 3 cars made it through at one point one year. But right now, your order: Claridge, Wright, Ulstead, Jacobsen, DeCourt are your top 5.
Yeah, and you know what?
Out too.
Well, yeah, but Reale and Trengrade still doing a decent job of hanging in there on the back of the top 5. Now remember, Ove started with ballast in his tank, 25 gallons to get started, so that's got him a little bit slow here in the start, but as we said, can definitely pick up spots.
Both Wright and Ulstead with the draft closed in on Mick Claridge easily. Same thing with Jacobsen there in 4th. They're all now lying astern as they come over the jump. Ulstead with a great run. That is always the frustrating thing, Sean, is trying to anticipate which way a person is going to go. But look at this. Here comes Billy Bob Wright. Takes a look at the lead, tries to outbrake Mick Claridge, but he's brave despite that extra ballast, going the long way around on Curva Grana. Somehow holds on to the lead with Wright ducking and diving, trying to see if he can find a way past as they all come together, attempting to brake early enough not to get into the gearbox of the car ahead.
Joe, all that excitement going on. Poor Don Good. Well, it ended badly coming out of 4 for him. The jump claimed another victim. We've got it on a quick replay here. See him coming up there, and the car got up in the air over to the right, into the barrier, and destroyed.
Looks like he landed just that slightly bit sideways, and you almost have to be pinpoint perfect landing on that car, Sean.
Yeah, we talked about that in the pre-race, and my struggles in practice with that. I think you suggested that being somewhere in the middle, not a bad place to be.
Absolutely. Sort of keeps you from getting too much of the jump if you go to the inside, it's a bigger leap. But if you go to the outside, you risk getting too close to that outside wall with the momentum just really carrying you out there. It is narrow as they come back Off of Parabolica onto the front stretch one more time. Here's the scarier thing, Sean, is in the real world, they didn't have those concrete barriers. They just had hay bales to separate you as they flew down at 200 miles an hour.
Yeah, something tells me safety improvements over the years are a good thing, Joe. Don't know that I want a bale of hay trying to stop this car.
Certainly, if you start to slide. Coming around 1 and 2. Once again, they're going to close in on one another as they reel in Mick Claridge. Nobody able yet to try and get by him through this drafting portion of the circuit. You can see Wright, Olstead, and now DeCourt is in 4th. All just lifting as they get there. Jacobson falling farther behind now. So despite his good start, doesn't seem to be able to hang with these guys.
Well, we almost had a battle for 5th as Brett Reale kind of looked at maybe trying to make a move on Jacobson in the turn, but look at him now, 2 abreast, 2 by 2 here, Joe.
Right, with a much better run down into Curva Grande, but once again can't break as late as the penalty-weighted Mick Claridge, who somehow holds on to things. No change in the order, I think. Oh, except Casper DeCourt did get by Olstead behind them, so he moves up onto the podium. Look at this train of cars now.
At your top 8.
Just incredible. Langford, despite his early troubles, is still holding on back there in the final spot of 8th.
I was going to say something about him a moment ago. Despite that trouble and getting up into the Armco barrier, he is obviously not taking as much damage as we initially thought, or at least I thought.
Court had a good run out of the second Lesmo, but lifts before he gets to Ascari. Does not attempt to pass Billy Bob Wright. They now come through the second chicane here of this course. Once again, you can see Mick Claridge starting to distance himself. And that's exactly what he wants to do here, Sean.
Yeah, Mick wants to end this season on a high note, and right now he's in command of this race here at Monza. He seems to have a little bit something figured out so far.
Unfortunately, we had, with no qualifying here today attached to the race, we did have to get right into it. Didn't get to go through the points, but they were talking beforehand over the radio that Mick Claridge needed a win to try and get himself, secure himself, I believe it was 2nd in the championship.
Yeah, possibly a tie even in 2nd for the championship if Mick is to win this race. And so far, he's taking care of business here, Joe.
He's looking a lot farther away than usual. I don't think he's completely out of the draft. You can get a whiff of it even 2 seconds back, incredibly, Sean, as looking to the inside, Casper DeCourt is aggressive. Oh, but not aggressive enough as he lifts before they get through 3 and 4.
Yeah, and Olstad was right behind him. Jack had to look like he got out of it just a bit as to try and not run up on DeCourt there. Still a lot of racing left here. Got to be patient, guys. Oh, boy, that was big trouble coming. Did you see that, Joe, coming out of 4?
Big air from DeCourt. That was incredible. Now look at this, down to the inside. We've seen this story twice before now. Can Wright do it finally? He's a lot stronger on the brakes this time. Is behind them. We have an incident. That's Ole Trangarade. We'll get back to that in a second. Sliding off because of change for the lead. Finally, Billy Bob Wright was able to outbrake Mick Claridge. Let's go back to the replay of Trangarade.
You know what, Joe? I think it was a combination of him turning the wheel and maybe tapping the brakes at the wrong time. You're going to see the car just kind of brake on him here, coming down to Curva de Grande.
And I think it was caught out by Brett Real. He closed on him so quickly, he looked to the outside to try and avoid him, and that's when the car started to lose it. And once he was in that grass, there was no saving it. Unfortunately, this puts him out of the train, and this is what I'm used to seeing from my time racing this car, Sean, is that one by one, cars start to peel off the train.
Yeah, they do, and where there were 8, there are now 7, and 7 will probably go to 6 or to 5 quickly. We'll see, but it will take over, and you can see up front already trying to break the draft up there. Billy Bob Wright back and forth down the straightaway, now in Parabolica.
And though Parabolica is a good passing opportunity in this car, you can tell nobody really interested in making moves with the way that the draft just slingshots you right past here on the oval portion as they come on once more. What's Claridge going to do? Big lift coming into turn 1. Just behind him, DeCourt, who has been making some interesting moves throughout this race. Nothing too wild so far as they're caught by Olstead now behind. And Billy Bob Wright starting to stretch away. I wonder if this is that extra weight on Mick Claridge. Look at him stream by now. I wonder if that pass was the death knell for Claridge's attempt for the win.
Boy, we'll see. You know what? This pack, though, is still running strong. It's amazing, you know, when they start to fall off, then all of a sudden you get a little bit of straightaway time. You see everybody come back into it side by side here.
Claridge was thinking about 3 wide, but he thought better of it as Casper DeCourt goes for it on the inside of Billy Bob Wright, but they don't touch. Somehow, the Floridian manages to fend off Casper DeCourt as the Dutchman has to settle for second instead of getting up into first.
You know, Joe, I wish there was something else we could tell race fans about what's going on in the back of the field, but this is it. This is the race, folks. They're all up here. Your top 7. Everybody else is chasing at this point.
Yeah, if things start to spread out up front, we'll chat back in and give you a run-through of where everyone sits in the back. But right now, we cannot step away too long from this action. Drivers starting to chit-chat over the radio, communicate about what's going on. Claridge apologizing to Olstead about braking a little early. He was afraid of what we were seeing with DeCourt and Wright going side by side and getting oh so close through Curva Grande. I know there's a lot of debates, Sean, about Monza considering changing Curva Grande in the real world and bypassing it with a kink and adding a chicane there.
Yeah, well, of course, they are already doing modifications to the track, and but yeah, that's some of the talk they're talking about doing there.
I know there's some who are disappointed, some who think it's a smart move, add something interesting to the track. I know, me personally, I'll be a little bit sad, though I understand add another opportunity for a pass, hopefully at least, with that kink being quite fast as they hit the oval here in the virtual world one more time. Up at the front, Billy Bob Wright being chased by Casper DeCourt. Wright goes defensive. Side by side, DeCourt, a big lift, which is going to give an opportunity to Claridge, who decides not to try it. Olstead as well, staying in line. Look at them check up and come together.
And every time they do that, that allows guys like Uwe Jacobsen and Michael Langford to stay in this race, Joe.
DeCourt gets a much better run this time, and no defense will be able to hold him back from Billy Bob Wright. A little bit of a pit for Mick Claridge, has nowhere to take his momentum. He's going to try around the outside, and in one fell swoop, Billy Bob goes from first to third.
Yeah, and Billy Bob could be back at first in about 3 turns. So just keep watching, folks. Be alert, be ready, and you're going to see some exciting action. Ove Treng, and you know what? I just happened to flip on Ove Trengrade, and he was sliding down through the chicane out in Della Rosia. He's still hanging in there, though. Ove's digging. About 5 seconds back from Uwe Jacobsen there, up there in 7.
Yeah, he wants on the back of this train. Unfortunately, this is a case where I can tell you from experience, you cannot be faster than the train unless they fight here in the regular road course portion of the track and slow one another down. But as it stands, he is not likely to get up back into the draft train. Now as they come out of Ascari down to Parabolica one more time.
You know, I don't mind this type of pack racing, honestly. It's very, very, I know I already referenced Daytona and Talladega, but very, very reminiscent of a NASCAR super speedway oval race, and the fact that they're racing so close together at such a high rate of speed, and and able to do that over a long run, and peril at every move, obviously. It definitely ramps up the excitement factor. I love this combination.
I was going to say, it reminds me a lot of the NASCAR super speedway races from the 70s and 80s, if anything, where it wasn't a sure thing that you were going to get by. And like you said, a lot of bravery as we're seeing from Mick Claridge, who slips to the inside, takes the lead away from Casper de Kort, and Billy Bob Wright gets himself in his second. Could be exactly like you predicted here, Sean. He's got one spot. Could he get another and get himself back in the lead within one lap? Whoa! Oh, de Kort flirting with disaster. Nearly getting to the wall, but to the inside one more time with a string of speed. Billy Bob Wright trying to take it away from Mick Claridge. He swings down in front of him to deny him that braking into Curva Grande, and like you said, the Floridian gets himself into first. Oh, but he goes
not for
wide.
long.
Mick Claridge with a savvy move coming out of Curva Grande, gets the power down early, takes it back into Della Rosa. I wonder if we're going to see more of that now that drivers are seeing that can be done.
I absolutely think we'll see more of that.
Interesting thing about this is, I believe Billy Bob Wright has one win this season, if I'm remembering correctly. I know Mick Claridge has multiple, but Casper de Kort, I don't believe, has a win yet.
I don't seem to remember Casper being in victory lane, Joe.
Could we see a Dutchman up in the top step of the podium here for the first time this season, at least on air? He may have won on one of the other races during the week. This is official iRacing racing that we are going through, so incident points do count towards safety rating. Their I rating is in effect according to where they finish. There's more at stake here than just the championship. Getting close there for third with Jack Ulstead and Casper de Kort through Parabolica. Once more onto the banking. De Kort going around the outside of Billy Bob Wright for second place. They're tight into there, and they start to sort it out. That was one thing that took some learning for me when I first started driving this combination, Sean, was figuring out how to steer the car into the oval, because that is scary in itself.
It really is, Joe. It's a real challenge. Man, look at this. Oh, boy.
That was Mick Claridge.
Yeah, and Billy Bob on a real dangerous part of the track down there on that apron. The transition up back to the oval there. Really not a lot of fun, Joe.
These cars causing a lot of sparks. Wow, getting squirrely off the jump. Billy Bob Wright, this is a hairy lap for him. He still has the speed, though, and he's going to look to the inside of de Kort to try and take the lead away. Once again, that momentum just being interrupted by for Mick Claridge, not able to do anything with it. Around the outside, de Kort trying to carry the speed. He's going to the inside into Della Rosa, and somehow he's keeping that lead away. We've seen some savvy moves now into that Della Rosa chicane.
Yeah.
Certainly adding some interesting racing to this circuit.
We have completed 8 laps, and for every one of those 8 laps, we've seen a battle in Curva Grande and a battle in Della Rosa. That's, can't wait till the last lap.
Oh, it is going to be frantic. Now, one thing, these cars are sending sparks everywhere as they bottom out into through the banking, Sean. But talking to the real world drivers, or well, not talking, but reading on their actual words about what it was like racing around here, that actually happened. Is they talked about losing the suspension, and that could send the car spinning at any moment because they would bottom out so much through there.
Yeah, and breaking the suspension was not uncommon here, Joe. Back in these, back in the day when they were running these, parts are made to be invincible to a point. Unfortunately, on these cars, they for as much of a beating they could take, this track definitely claimed a lot of victims because of suspension problems.
We'll watch this on the oval one more time, but once they get back onto the road course, we'll try and run you through the latter half of the field to tell you where they sit. But for now, we're going to watch and see if there's any changes up at the front as DeCourt leads with Billy Bob Wright with a great run down the inside, just narrowly getting it 3 wide, though. Way to the inside. They're trying to sort it out. Big lift, and he does not want anything of that as Mick Claridge sends himself from nearly going into first back into fourth. Thinks better of its survival instinct. Takes over.
What a sacrifice there by Claridge, sacrificing time. But the front three still going at it here, Joe. Again, we're going to have another battle here down into Curva Grande.
And Olstead getting on the radio saying that he cannot believe the weaving around that is happening. Billy Bob Wright slots into second as DeCourt takes over in first. Olstead's third. Claridge, as we said, gets himself in a fourth behind them. They've been watching in the popcorn position Michael Langford, Brett Rial, and Uwe Jacobson rounding out 5th, 6th, and 7th. Behind them, we've mentioned Trangrade has not been able to gain ground. He can see them just up in the distance, but can't gain. He's in 8th. Behind him, Simon Shaw, well back, 18 seconds back from Trangrade. He's in 9th. Oscar Helm, we covered his early problems. Rounding out the top 10, he's another 13 seconds back in that Violet machine. Hideki Koivisto in 11th, another 16, 17 seconds back, really. And then 12th is held down by Craig Spitzer, a driver we've seen in this series but haven't seen a whole lot of, sitting 21 seconds back. And he is the last car running. After 17 started, we have dropped 5 with Don Good, Gary Anderson, Andrew Ang, Pierce Anderson Martin, and Bradley Osborne having DNF'd.
Well, Joe, back up front, much of the same. It's funny, when we talked about the craziness before and the comments on the radio, a lot of these guys are just now waking up. What a way to start the day right now with this adrenaline, this shot of adrenaline to the brain.
Yeah, Olstead is from California, so it is currently 7 in the morning over there from him. Race started about 6:30. This is better than coffee, I'm sure.
Boy, and look at the run Olstead was getting for the minute. Oh, here we go. Claridge down the bottom.
2. We're going to go 3 wide. Yes, we are. Shooting it up the inside. Trying to go to the front. Holding 2 wide through the banking. But Mick Claridge has to settle for second as Billy Bob Wright is the one into the lead. That was incredibly brave from the Brit.
Oh. Casper DeCourt with an exciting journey over the jump there.
Claridge carrying the momentum up around the outside. He's trying to take the lead that he couldn't get coming into 3 and 4, and I think he's got it. Billy Bob Wright has seemed a little timid here into Curva Grande, just not as good onto the brakes as DeCourt tries to go around the outside, which switches to the inside of De La Roja. He's going to slot back into 3rd, not going to be able to overtake the Floridian.
You know who I've noticed is starting to take a peek at things up here, this 4-car battles. Michael Langford sitting back there in 5th. A couple times he gets a little close, kind of takes a look. It's like, okay, I just wanted to smell the air up here. I'll be back.
The Kiwi and the Ferrari thinking, what can I do here? Can I stay out of trouble? Can I have a go at the end? And looks like one of our DNFs has finally come back into the race. Gary Anderson has re-entered.
Well, he's not a DNF anymore. He's now back in the race. After 23 minutes of repair, Joe, Gary Anderson is back.
He is going to be able to get a couple positions. He's sitting 14th. Don Good and Oscar Helm have officially exited. They are no longer in the server. So he should be able to get himself into 12th at least if he can get a few more laps in. And with 10 laps to go, how many laps behind is he here? 9 laps back? Someone would have to wreck now for him to get any more spots, I believe.
Boy, Mick starting to really pull away now. It looks like maybe the fuel starting to drop off just a bit for Mick. obviously, car getting a little bit faster. You know, you talked about the speed, Joe. It's amazing how much time you actually spend over 200 miles an hour on this track, more than any other track or any other configuration that I can imagine.
Wonder if we could get on our timing and scoring at a later date a thing that actually shows you the current speed of the cars, because right now, even in the banking, 205 miles an hour from Mick Claridge, our leader, being run down by these guys. They should be up as high as 211 by the time they get to the braking. Billy Bob Wright with a draft, 211 right now, pops out, looks to the inside, cuts off the lane from Mick Claridge, who tries to look to the outside. They almost come together. Claridge slips to the wide side of Curvagrana, but manages to hold on to second. Things getting a little bit more intense now, if you can believe that, here in the top pack. Seeing a little bit less room given, Sean.
Yeah, maybe not entirely shocked about that, Joe. When they come to the stripe, we'll have 8 laps left in this race, and I would imagine it's time to turn up the wick and let's get busy here.
Before, it was give and take. Drivers willing to let others just go on by, knowing that they can get it back later as long as they stay in this front pack. Now, maybe not as willing. I have to wonder. We talk to drivers in series with drafting and whatnot, Sean, and in other cars, and they always tend to say, I want to be in the lead. I want to be in the lead. I don't want to be behind. It's easier to defend than to attack. I don't know here. I feel like with as big a hole this car punches, it might be better to be in second place or third.
Boy, I'll tell you what. You know, when you're starting that last lap, I don't know if I want to be at the point unless I've got a really, really good margin there. You might be better to attack from third. Honestly, maybe second, but I still think that third spot, you get one car to pull you along and get you out there to make that move.
Claridge was defensive down the pit straight, holding just the middle and keeping DeCourt from taking either side as they come to the backstretch once more, trying to chase down Billy Bob Wright. And one more time, DeCourt not able to do anything with it. He had a head of steam on the Brit, but lifted before they got to turn 3. Now as they come to the jump, is anybody going to pop out? Claridge has the momentum, looks around the outside. Olstead.
We've got a new nickname, Joe.
Yeah, I like that. Olstead calling him Billy Bob and Weave, trying to break that draft. Didn't work, though, as Claridge took over the lead.
I hope Soup's watching. That's going to be one he's going to appreciate.
Absolutely. I want to keep an eye on Michael Langford. He's losing ground here on the road course every time. But if he can time his run right, he's just been waiting so patiently. I think he's got something up his sleeve.
Joe, I'm so glad you said something, because honestly, I've been pretty much tagged on his car for most of these last 6-7 laps. I think he does have something up his sleeve here.
Langford, I believe, is another one. I don't think he's won yet this season. I'm trying to remember. We'll have to pull up the stats at some point if we can peel our eyes away for more than 10 seconds and check on that. See whether he's got one on the charts. He doesn't win often, I can tell you that. Oh, things getting very close. There might have been some contact there between DeCourt and Olstead through Parabolica. Definitely do not want to damage this car in any shape or form, despite it being just a cigar tube. It carries a huge penalty on a straight here on this circuit if you get just the slightest bit of damage. Understanding that Langford has not had a win yet this season, but he has 3 top 5s to his name. And you could see, even though these cars were stretched out, by the time they came back here to the oval, they are all back together already. DeCourt looking to the inside, trying to follow Billy Bob right through. As once again, he goes by Mick Claridge to the inside. Claridge brave on the brakes. Somehow has found grip around that outside line. Claridge holds on to the lead.
Langford getting by. Riali here.
Starting to see some moves. The New Zealander leaves Riali in the dust, if anything. Look at the gap coming off the chicane. Things are getting interesting now. Langford moves himself into the top 5.
Okay, well, time for him to get to work here. Time running out now.
Langford roughly 2 seconds back from the leader at the moment. But you can see how close he is to 4th. Within about 9/10, that'll be enough to bring him back in. DeCourt with a bit of run on Billy Bob Wright for second. Wright even going defensive down into that corner, not wanting to let him get by. Bit of a gap, about 1 second up to Mick Claridge. They're going to bring him back in. Right on board with DeCourt. One thing this shot just doesn't do is give you the sense of what the force feedback does on these cars heading into the banking. The shaking that you feel.
Yeah, violently shaking. Yeah, and you know what? That being said, it does make this track a bit of a workout, Joe, for as fast and wide open as it is. The force feedback is a big issue here in those banked sections of the track.
Oh, too wide. Billy Bob Wright on the low side. He's going to lift, though. Let both cars through. Olstead to third. DeCourt to second. Up and over the jump one more time. To the inside, Casper DeCourt. He's going to have a little bit of a pick for Jack Olstead, who gets held up behind him and Mick Claridge. Claridge, is he going to try the outside move one more time? He's trying it. Look, where is he finding the grip in that car? Look at him come back.
No idea.
It's like another part of the oval, the way that he's driving it.
Yeah, and the way he can get it to turn down there, and Riali with trouble.
Off in the Della Roja chicane. That was by himself. We're going to look at the replay. A little bit target fixation as Uwe Jacobsen did the same thing but managed not to spin the car.
That's a shame. That's, of course, going to lose time for him. Ove Trengerade able to get a spot back, Joe. Back up to 7th.
That's our second car to have lost from the train. I thought we would have lost more by now. Usually they make mistakes and the race is over for them. But now we are down to 5. We were at 8 before.
And then there were 5. Yes, sir. Langford still hanging in this thing just behind those 4. You see the red car back there?
That bright Ferrari red probably wants desperately to be able to represent here at a home track for Monza for that mark.
The Tifosi on their feet.
Virtual fans know that he's still in this thing. Now they come back to the banking once more. Your order this time. Claridge, DeCourt, Olstead, Wright, Langford. Starting to see gutsier moves. See drivers tempt fate going too wide through the banking. Are we going to see it again? DeCourt has the speed. He's down to the inside. Manages to get past Mick. Olstead also desperately wanting through. Lifts and doesn't try it. going to slot into third. As Claridge holding on behind DeCourt now as they come to the jump. Oh, he's going to try and swing wide, but he has to lift. Can't get into it. Here comes Olsted with a head of steam down to the inside from third to first for the Californian. Around the outside, we're seeing other drivers figure out the move that Mick Claridge did as Casper DeCourt tries to go deep but can't hold on to it the same way that the Brit did. He's still got the inside down into De La Rosa as he brave onto the brakes. Olsted a little bit better coming up around the outside. Look at Mick Claridge coming back into third around Billy Bob Wright, but he can't get the traction off the corner. And look at Michael Langford.
Yes, just that's what I was going to say. Look who moves up to fourth.
Capitalizing with an advantageous move. The New Zealander, one by one, is picking them off. He's now into P4.
Yeah, but I almost wonder if he really wanted to be there right now, Joe. Looked like he was really just staying out of the battle, just watching and waiting, but he's in it now. No choice. It's time to run. Keep Mick behind you.
Whether or not he wanted to be in the thick of this bullfight. Oh, and a bit of loss of traction for the Netherlander. DeCourt now going back into third as to the inside. Billy Bob Wright takes away P2 into this final corner. It's going to go side by side. This is going to lose them a little time on Jack Olsted. Wow, just look at how close they're racing.
Okay, here comes Langford up the inside.
Do or die time for Langford, now up into third.
See Jack all the way up there in first, but trust me, folks.
That time is ticking down. It was a whole second. It's now half a second. Langford already looking on Billy Bob Wright, slipping to the outside. He's going to take second away now.
Forget anything I said about Langford not wanting to be up in this fight right now. I think he's proving me absolutely dead wrong.
I think he knows that he needs to be up towards the front here at this point with 4 to go. Big slingshot move there at the back of the pack for Mick Claridge. Once again gets interrupted. The track just not wide enough as he's got to lift Langford up to the lead now. Well to the inside of Jack Olsted on the outside, side by side off into the grass for Billy Bob Wright. 2 wheels in there, manages to hold on to it side by side for second between himself and Olsted. This allows Langford to hold on to the lead. Going to be side by side down into De La Rosa now. Almost 3 wide is behind the McCarr peeking in there. Oh, we could see a cut course there for Jack Olsted, who's way to the inside of De La Rosa.
Wow. Sometimes I wish you could hear the comments of the director.
He's been making more nervous noises than we are. All right, your order all shuffled up after that straightaway. Langford, Wright, Olsted, DeCourt, Claridge for your top 5.
Oh boy, and they've really let Langford get out to a run here. Jeez.
The Kiwi has turned the afterburners on. We got a change for 4th position. Claridge overtakes DeCourt.
Takes advantage of him going into his scoring.
Olsted and go ahead.
I was going to say Billy Bob had a little trouble getting out of his scoring, and Olsted had to run out to the left there to just avoid hitting him. Now Olsted getting the run on him here in Parabolica. Not able to pull it.
And DeCourt was deep into Parabolica, tries to cut back to get himself the run. Wasn't successful. The draft is going to help him anyways. Langford with a 1.2 second lead. One of the biggest we've seen, but it's not going to be enough as that time shrinks and shrinks around the oval.
Yeah, a lot of time spent on the oval, this configuration. So Langford certainly in the mirror, but here we go. Olstad, Billy Bob. Looks like Billy Bob and Weave gets back up to the top there, and everybody survives.
Claridge took a look, but lifted by turn 3. And they come over the jump again. Billy Bob that time was really swinging it wide. Trying to carry his momentum, and he's got it as he looks around the outside, but does he got first place? Oh, he's going to send it in very deep into this corner.
Oh,
Langford holding everybody up. Yeah, just not as brave there down into Curva Grande. Ulstead around the outside. He's going to have the inside coming into Della Roja, but this is where we're seeing Langford a little bit brave, fending him off. Three to go. Down to the inside. Is that McClarridge? It is indeed, moving himself into third. Sean, are we going to see all 5 drivers actually get to the line here? They are fighting insanely hard right now.
I mean, I want to see all 5 of them get to the line. I don't know. There's this calculation of probability that I have a problem with.
Ulstead fends off Casper de Court, who slipped back into 5th in all of this. Wright is the one who's gotten a gap this time. A second and a half, actually.
Boy, Ulstead really, really struggled out of Ascari that time. That allows de Court to get around him. Claridge gets around Langford going into Parabolica there.
Moves himself up into second. Boy, it's been a long time. Claridge, when he slipped back to 5th, has had to really fight and claw just get up to P2.
Well, I'll tell you what, de Court, Ulstead, they better find it here quickly. Only 2 laps to go.
They've been slipping back, but as we've seen, Sean, they very easily get back into this. As long as you're within about 2 seconds of the leader, you are going to gain on them by the end of the oval. And 2 seconds is a huge gap at 200 miles an hour.
Really is, Joe. Oh,
boy. Ulstead on the high side of de Court, and they somehow come out of it whole.
Yeah, de Court was down there on the apron trying to get back up, and boy.
As McClarridge clips the wall. He somehow grapples it back together, but look at all the speed he lost. That moves him back to 5th. Let's get a replay on board of McClarridge. Did he grab the Armco coming off the jump here?
I think he does, just barely. He does, Joe. I think we got a yeehaw out of him, actually. Oh,
off course as we come back live. He was side by side with Jack Ulstead, and that is, with 2 laps to go, is going to mean that McClarridge is now out of it.
Pretty much, Joe. I don't know how he recovers from that. Almost 2 seconds now behind, and obviously struggling a little bit with the car. Got to worry about Ube Jacobson right behind him now.
I think he might have damage, honestly.
Yeah, that might even be the bigger factor. There's no telling how that left front is working for him right now.
And then there were only 4 monkeys jumping on the bed. With white flag coming out this time by for Billy Bob Wright, but it is no sure thing for the Floridian. Your order as they come to the line is going to be Wright, Langford, de Court, Ulstead.
This might be the mother of all final laps, Joe.
How aggressive are they willing to be? Where are they willing to go 2 wide, 3 wide potentially? A lift from Langford. Doesn't want to try and get up to him now. Wants to hold back, wants to allow himself that run. Look at Ulstead in the back. Possibly the best positioned. He's going to try and follow de Court through. And they're going to go 3 wide, splitting the middle. Ulstead. Is he going to try 2 wide through the banking? De Court and Langford sorted out. De Court into 3rd. Ulstead in a 2nd. Wright still holding on to 1st, but just barely. Now, as they come over the jump, here's where it all counts. Weaving to the inside, Billy Bob tries to hold that inside line. Ulstead goes to the outside. De Court pinned behind them in third. Here comes Langford in fourth as they come to the braking. Can Olstead hold on to it? He's got first place, and DeCourt holding on around the outside into the braking as Wright slots back into third from first place. It's still not over, and way from deep, here comes DeCourt. Backs out of it, though, at the apex. That was a Hail Mary that somehow he managed to get out of, and I don't know how.
Claridge is back here, back into the picture, Joe, trying to overtake Langford.
He slides way wide and loses time. We still have one more chance here. DeCourt hunting Jack Olstad. Coming up to Ascari. Olstad holds to the inside. As they break, he closes in, but the apex is going to go to Olstad. Behind them, a little bit of battling between Wright and Langford for the third place as well. Coming off the corner, a little bit of loss of traction for DeCourt, and that could have been his only opportunity. Just pushed it that little bit too hard. Can Olstad hold on? One more corner to go. Down into the Parabolica. He takes an early apex to keep him from sending it in. A pass for third as Langford takes it away. Coming off the corner, Jack Olstad finds the traction, and coming to the line, the Californian is going to take the win.
Yeah. Casper DeCourt got to settle for second, and Michael Langford with a third. Jack Olstad with a big yeehaw there at the end.
Claridge recovers to fourth. Wright, unfortunately, goes all the way down to fifth after leading coming to the white flag. My goodness, catch your breath if you're watching.
Yeah,
We have to catch ours as drivers continue to come across the line and finish. It looks like we're actually amazingly going to have 13 cars find the checkered flag after all that. But we're going to take a short break. We'll have all the upcoming races here on the Global Sim Racing channel on your screen. Afterwards, we'll have the official results as well as driver interviews. Stick around. Welcome back to Monza. If you just missed this race, go back, rewind, forget about watching the post-race. Go watch what you missed. Because, wow, everybody in the booth was talking about how incredible that one was. And and we mean that. We're really wowed by this race. And in the end, the guy who was most wowed and cheering the most was Jack Ulstead, who took away the win by a mere 0.3 over Casper de Kort, who fought valiantly but couldn't take it away, but still gets a second place. How about Michael Langford waiting in the wings and then getting in the thick of it? Even though he didn't win, that was a great run by the Kiwi to take the last podium position. Mick Claridge, who was strong the whole race, a mistake put him in the back and just didn't have enough laps to try and get back to the front. He finishes in 4th. And Billy Bob Wright, he led going to the white flag and still finished down in 5th. Uwe Jacobsen comes home in 6th position, a mistake sending him back into the field early on. Ove Trangrade with the same thing, of course, coming home in 7th. And then Brett Rial finishing in 8th today. Simon Shaw finishing in 9th, falling way back 54 seconds away from the leader. Hideki Koivisto rounds out our top 10. Sean?
All right, Joe. Craig Spitzer, he will finish this race in 11th place. Gary Anderson, he did come back out on track, and for his effort, he'll finish 12th. 13th, going to go to Oscar Helm. He also came back out on track after a lengthy pit stop there. Andrew Eng, 14th. 15th, going to go to Don Good. 16th, Per Anders Martinson. And 17th, Bradley Osborne. And Joe, I can confirm that we've got some guys making their way to the interview room. But, man, I got to admit, that is probably one of the more exciting races, period, I've got to see in a while. We said in a break, what a finale. What a way to cap off what's been just a tremendous season.
Absolutely. And you know, we get a lot of talk in the Lotus 49 community whenever people see, wait, you guys run the Monza combined in these cars? And we go, yep. And now people know why we run, because it puts on races like this. And in fact, Jack Ulstead, who is a big member in this community and does a lot to help organize this broadcast coming to air, can attest to why this track goes on the schedule season after season. And Jack, boy, we heard you cheering after that race. I think that was an incredibly well-earned win. How are your nerves after that one, though?
Well, I'd say my nerves aren't doing too bad, considering I only got 4 hours of sleep, and I had to drink 2 cups of coffee and 1 5-hour energy to get me going today.
Now, talk about some of those 3 wide moments on the oval where you guys looked like you weren't going to sort it out, and somehow you got single file in time for turns 3 and 4. Were you thinking, I have to be the one to lift, or was your mind going, stay in it, stay in it?
Early on, I was lifting a lot. Early on, I was just biding my time. I learned a hard lesson in the Tasman race from Mick, that there's plenty of time all the way up to the very last lap, because I had a 2-second lead on him with 1 lap to go in the Tasman, and he still reeled me in and passed me going into that chicane. That everybody kept passing me in today, which was kind of obnoxious because I kept on having to give them room, and then I'd end up clipping the curb. But then towards the end of the race, that's where, I was just going to play it safe, but you get wrapped up into the excitement of it, and your adrenaline gets going, and you can't back off at that point. When you're dicing with these guys and we're having such a great race, I knew we were putting on a heck of a show. And I just, when I went down the middle there and then somebody else was right alongside me, I was like, just stay in there. Somebody's going to back off. Yeah. It doesn't always end up that way. I'd say this win was a good bit of luck, because on that track, when you have that kind of stuff going on at 210 miles per hour, definitely Lady Luck came in there a little bit, I'd say.
Certainly. And Talk about as well into Curva Grande, because we saw some very interesting things. It almost felt like an extension of the oval with we saw guys like Mick Claridge somehow finding grip around the outside. Did that surprise you, or did you expect that?
I'm glad you asked that because I was shocked. I always have to hug the inside. I have to get the car on that curbing in order to really negotiate that Curva Grande very fast. Otherwise, you're having to lift. But I guess my tires were really gripped up really well. I hadn't overcooked them because I hadn't been pushing real hard throughout the first part of the race, and the car stuck. I was kind of like, hey, this just may work. So, but I'll tell you what, though, this track especially, it's a big thanks to Mick. That guy has shown me and taught me so much. I wouldn't have won this race if it wasn't for Mick giving me all the pointers that he did on this track. I think it was 2 seasons ago, actually. And that guy is so awesome because he shares all of his secrets with people. He's willing to do that. And so it's just a class act. We got so many first-class drivers in this group. And it's great to race with these guys. So, yeah, thanks to Mick. I got to thank my wife, too, because she's been really patient. And we've had some tough times lately, and she knows that this is one of my best things to go, get my mind off stuff and have a blast. So I also want to thank my wife.
Absolutely. Everybody needs that little bit of support. And I agree with you. Just some top-notch drivers in here that show a lot of respect for one another. Thanks. And once again, congratulations, Jack.
Oh, by the way, my wife's name is Sharon. I should. They don't always like being referred to as the wife. The first name or honey or sweetie is what I've learned in almost 28 years of marriage. So, but thanks GSRC and thanks to everyone for really being a part of this ALS Association fundraiser. I'm really proud of the guys. It looks like we're going to hit the $1,000 mark, and I'm so proud of everyone. So thank you, GSRC, for broadcasting us.
Oh, thank you for having us. We've had a blast this season. That was Jack Ulstead, and who we're hoping has 28 more years of happy marriage out there to help him continue racing. In the meantime, Sean is going to talk to our 5th place finisher, Billy Bob Wright.
Yeah, Joe, we're going to go from one coast to another and head on over to Billy, who has a new nickname. Hopefully it's authorized. Billy Bob and Weave with us. Billy, talk to us.
That's got some negative connotations, but I mean, all of that was just me trying to follow the guy in front of me. I mean, that's what that was all about. I mean, if I came out in the front, I would go immediately to one line. But if you watch the race, I stayed there. And but when somebody was in front of me, weaving back and forth, I was definitely following him. But super race, and even though I'm a little disappointed because I thought I might win it, I don't think this thing could have played out better. I mean, Jack gets his first win after all his struggles this season. Ben, who couldn't be here, and I was so upset. Actually, if my math is right, Ben hangs on to his 2nd place, and that couldn't have worked out better because he couldn't be here. And then I think, and I don't know if you guys have done the math, but I think I just nicked Mick right there by 1 or 2 points to come home 3rd, I think. Have you guys done the math?
I can honestly say I have not. Joe, have you done any math yet?
Don't ask me to do math. We know that's a bad idea.
Okay. So I'm going to share something here with you, Billy Bob. Here at GSRC, we're prohibited from doing math. So that's.
Well, I'll make this quick because I'm sure you guys want to talk to Mick too if you haven't already. But super race. I mean, we were all racing each other much harder than I anticipated, and it really just came down to, last second the cars have so much draft, and it put everybody in compromising positions. But man, what a fantastic race! I was set to really kick it off and I think if I'd have finished 2nd, I would have nipped Ben. And it looked like I was going to do that, but I missed a shift on the last lap. I thought I blew the motor up. That let everybody catch me, and then Mike and I got together. Anyway, fantastic race, man. Fantastic season. I'm super glad it ended up the way it did overall. I mean, Jack winning, Ben saying 2nd. super stuff.
Billy Bob, listen, man, has it ever been as crazy as that was, this race, for as long as it was?
No, Sean, let me tell you, man, I'm just sitting here just really thinking back through the race, and I can't wait to watch the broadcast, because I'm telling you, that was some of the hardest racing I've ever experienced, and some super close calls. I can't wait to watch the broadcasts, and of course, I can't wait to get back here next season, do it all again. Hey, on my way out, I want to say thanks to the Ballast boys. None of this would have been possible without those guys playing such a sporting move. And I also want to say thanks to my supporters for my ALS challenge. For those that don't know, what I was doing was I had four people that were supporting me with $1 for every point I scored. And then I was going to match whatever their total was. So we're bringing in $288 for Racing for Rick ALS. Coming from my camp, and I'm really excited to do that. Wish I could have got a few more points and popped that up over 300, but still a good run. And thanks again, guys. Super race. Looking forward to next season.
Billy Bob, that's amazing, man. Great idea, great effort, and congratulations on a great season, man. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you again here soon.
Okay, guys. Good. See you soon.
All right, Joe, that was Billy Bob, right? And boy, what a race out of him today. It looks like we got one last driver to talk to, and that's Mick Claridge. And of course, Mick was in the center of all that mess there. Mick, talk to Joe.
Mick, one thing that we can't ignore, unfortunately, is 2 laps to go, coming off the jump. Did you actually manage to touch the Armco and come back?
I didn't have any damage, so I don't think I touched anything. I didn't notice a touch. Yeah, I think I was all right there. But I'd never come off that oval as fast as that in my life on this game. You know? And, I was running the 25 gallons, so it was heavy anyway. But that slingshot, what I got on that lap, was absolutely perfect. And I thought, this is it. I'm gonna do well at the end of this straight. And then that was it. I was on the grass. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, it certainly looked hair-raising, and unfortunately, would you say that cost you a chance at the win?
Oh, I don't know about the win. The car was quite heavy, and it's quite hard to pass down the main straight, and that's pretty much where you have to do it. And so that was quite tough. It was tough if I was sort of 3rd or 4th place behind in the tow. I mean, I know it looks like a tactical race as you're getting to the last lap, but for me, it wasn't. I was testing everything out in that race, just trying to see where I was faster, see what I could do. I was even when I was at the front, I was even trying to sort of weave around a bit just to get the guys behind to think about what they're doing and stuff like that. So it was a real challenge, that race. Quite tough, So, but I'm so glad Jack won it. I can't believe that. I'm really happy for him.
I think a lot of members will be happy for Jack, as he's a popular character around these parts. But talk to us about Curva Grande. We noticed you making power moves, essentially, somehow finding grip around the outside. Is that something you discovered this race, or did you learn that earlier on? Because that shocked us that you could somehow pull that off.
I've got a funny feeling it's the camber I'm using on the front. I was using a really odd setup there. I was using -3 degrees camber on the front left, and about -1.5 on the front right, and it really helped there. I've always done it at that track. It sort of seems to me that if you can be fast down the main straight and then fast in Curva Grande, you're pretty much fast everywhere else, So I always aim for that, and a drop down to 3rd gear doesn't hurt, on the way in to get the back out, and then you can hammer it, and sometimes the back stays out nicely, and you can keep your foot down all the way. That's what I try to aim for anyway.
Well, so are you saying that you have an asymmetric setup on the car for this track?
Yeah, very much. Yeah, very much so. 400-pound springs on the front, both sides, just because of the extra fuel. I've never ran that before. 275s on the back. That's the only even thing on the car. Everything else is completely odd. Even the back, even the rear cambers are completely odd. I think I ran 1.5 on the left rear and -9 on the right rear, something like that.
Very clever stuff. Well, it certainly woke us up, as we did not expect to see someone be able to make passes around the outside of that corner. Beautiful job today. A shame that it only rewarded you with a 4th, but we look forward to seeing you next season.
Yeah, thanks. I want to take up a bit of time. I want to say a few thanks and well done, if that's all right.
Absolutely. Go for it.
All right, cheers. Well, thanks to you guys first of all, you've done a really great job. I honestly, I love watching these races back, and even if I wasn't in the races, I'd still love watching them back. They're top-notch broadcasts. These are really good stuff. And thanks to Jack for letting us all be able to do this in the first place. Thanks to Ben also for his help. I don't actually know how much Ben's put into it, but I know he's helped out quite a lot, so thanks to him. And well done to Michelle. To win the championship running 25 gallons each race is absolutely unbelievable. It's one of the best drives I've ever seen ever in sim racing.
Yeah, he's impressed us both here, and we've seen him race as well over in the Lotus 79s, and his talent is phenomenal. We agree. Thanks for coming and talking to us, and have a wonderful break here on week 13, Mick.
Yeah, you too, guys. Thanks a lot. Hope to see you next season.
As Mick Claridge, 4th place finisher today here at Monza. With that, we are going to close up for the season here in the Lotus 49 Racing for Rick World Cup Challenge. And once again, we do want to remind you, as we have mentioned, we didn't get a chance in the pre-race to go over it. This is the Racing for Rick World Cup Challenge, which is raising money for the ALS Association. And if you want to donate money, we have a link in the description. We definitely encourage you to go do that, even after this season is over, whatever you can spare to help fight this horrible disease and go towards research to see what we can do about it. And we want to thank Jack Olstead and Ben Zocco ourselves for all that they did to bring this championship together and get this thing to air. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts. They're listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media on Twitter. We're at GSR Channel there, or Facebook, that's /Global Sim Racing Channel. Now, though the next race in this series will be at Le Mans, and that'll be September 15th, that they have the SOF race. We are in continued negotiations with the Lotus 49 series. They are eager to come back. We're eager to have them back, so hopefully we'll see them again in 2 weeks' time. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.